Hi, this is Rob. I'm going to show you how to do the exercises that go along with the Math Antics video lesson, Measuring Distance. Are you ready? Let's get started. For our first problem, we're supposed to measure the spoon's length to the nearest quarter inch. Express the answer as a mixed number. So here's our spoon here, and we have a ruler, and this dotted line showing us exactly how long the spoon is, where it lines up on the ruler here. And we need to measure to the nearest quarter inch, so we need to figure out which side is inches, and inches are longer than centimeters, so this side here is measuring inches because the main marks, the ones that are numbered, show the length of the main unit, which is an inch, and on here the marks that are numbered show the length of the main unit, which is a centimeter. So these are the inches. So we see that it's more than 7, it's between 7 and 8, so it's going to have 7 inches. And then the fractional amount, the amount to the nearest quarter inch. So these divisions here, they are based on dividing in half over and over again. This mark right in the middle marks 1/2. There's another mark that divides that in half, and then that in half, and that in half. And so if these are halves, if this mark is half, then this mark here would be a quarter, and this mark here would indicate 3/4. 1, 2, 3/4. And the line goes right on that mark there. And so that's the nearest quarter of an inch. So it's 7 3/4 of an inch. For our second problem, we're supposed to measure the spoon's length to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. And we're supposed to express the answer as a decimal. So once again, we have the spoon and the dotted line and our ruler. And this time we're going to be using the centimeter side, these smaller measurements here, these smaller lengths. And we see that it's between the 19 and 20, so it's going to at least be 19. So we'll put 19, and then we have these markings here that indicate tenths of a centimeter. And we need to measure it to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. So we could count them one at a time. We see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those smaller markings. Or we can take advantage of the fact that there's a slightly larger marking halfway in between, and since it's divided into 10, that marks 5. So we could count directly from that middle marking, go 5, 6, 7. And either way, we see that it's 7/10 of a centimeter. And we're supposed to express that as a decimal, so it's 19.7 centimeters. That's the length of the spoon to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. For problem 3, we're supposed to measure the pencil's length to the nearest 1/10 of an inch. Express the answer as a decimal. So we have our pencil here and the dotted line and our ruler. And this time, though, the inches are divided up into 10. Instead of the markings where you have a larger mark right in the middle, and then in between that, a smaller mark, and in between that, 2 smaller marks, we have these 4 marks that are the same size, and then one that's bigger but not as big as the numbered markings, and then another 4 marks, so that divides it up into 10/10 of an inch. And so we see that the pencil is more than 6, it's between the 6 and the 7, so it's going to be at least 6, and then we have 1, 2, 3/10, and we're supposed to express it as a decimal, so it'll be 6.3 inches. And that's the length of the pencil to the nearest 1/10 of an inch. For problem 4, we're supposed to measure the pencil's length to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. Express the answer as a decimal. So once again, the pencil on the ruler, and then we have the centimeters on this side here, and the dotted line looks like it goes exactly on this mark for 16. So it's 16 centimeters, but we want it to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. And so there's not any tenths of a centimeter more than that. So we express that by doing 0.0. 16.0 centimeters is the length of this pencil to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. For problem 5, we're supposed to measure the golf club's length to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. Express the answer as a mixed number. So here we have a golf club and the dotted line, and this looks a lot like the ruler from before, but see this, it has a foot marking here. Goes 34, 35, 3 feet, 37, 38. Usually when you're looking at a measuring device that goes into multiple feet long, it's from a tape measure. And that's what this is showing here, is a tape measure. And on a tape measure, every foot, instead of just putting the number of inches, it marks how many feet it is. And 3 feet is 36 inches, so it fits right in there perfectly. 35, 36, 37. The golf club goes a little beyond 37 inches, so it's going to be 37. And then for the fractional part, it goes right to this mark here. So let's see what mark that is. So if this is half of that again would be quarters. So that's a 1/4 inch, 1/4 of an inch. And half of a fourth is an eighth. So this marking here is 1/8. So it'd be 37 and 1/8 inch. Now, since 37 inches is more than a foot, you might want to express it as a combination of feet and inches. And so we see that it's 3 feet and how many inches? Just 1 more inch than that. So we could write it as 3 feet, 1 inch, well, 1 and 1/8 inch. And a cool way to write feet and inches together, instead of writing FT for foot and IN for inch, you write the number of feet, and then you put a tick mark, 1 tick mark, and that represents foot. And then you put the inches part, and you put 2 tick marks. So that's 3 feet and 1 and 1/8 inches. And so any of these ways are valid ways of expressing the length of this golf club to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. For problem 6, we're supposed to measure the golf club's length to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. Express the answer as a decimal. And so once again, we have our golf club here and our tape measure and the dotted line. So we see on the centimeter side that the dotted line lies between the 94 and the 95. So it's going to be 94 centimeters and a fractional amount, some number of tenths of centimeters. And we see that there's 1, 2, 3 tenths before we get to the dotted line. So it's going to be 94.3 centimeters. And that's the length of this golf club to the nearest 1/10 of a centimeter. For problem 7, we're supposed to use a calculator to convert this measurement into a decimal. And if you remember from our video, we learned that inches are commonly subdivided in 2 different ways. One way is dividing by 2, where you divide by 2 and divide by 2 again and divide by 2, and you get units like halves and quarters and eighths. So this measurement here is an example of what you get when you use the divide by 2 method. And the other method is dividing by 10, and that's often easier to work with because it works well with decimal numbers. You can easily convert from a divided by 2 measurement to a divided by 10 measurement just by dividing. So we're going to do that here. We have 6 3/8. So we know that the whole number part is going to be 6. And then the fractional part we get by dividing 3 by 8. So we have 3 divided by 8 equals, and we have 0.375. So we put 375 after the decimal point. So we have 6.375 inches is the dividing by 10 way of representing the measurement 6 3/8 inches. For problem 8, we're supposed to use a calculator to convert this measurement into a decimal. And we have 12 and 9/16 inches. So to convert it to a decimal, we just start with 12, and then we have a decimal point, and then we get the fractional part by doing 9 divided by 16. We have 9 divided by 16 equals, and we have 0.5625. But we normally don't need that much detail. It's pretty common to just round it off to the 3 decimal places. You could put all of the decimal places there. You could put all of the detail we have. Or you could round it off. Let's round it off to like 3 decimal places. So we have a 2 here and followed by a 5. So that means we're going to round up. So either one of these would be a perfectly valid answer, converting 12 and 9/16 inches into a decimal form.